Discover the incredible heartwarming transformations of early American settlers in harsh winters. The winter of 1626 descended on the small New England town like a cruel specter, its icy breath chilling every soul. For Mary Collins, a humble widow, the biting cold threatened not only her body but her very spirit. She wrapped her two young children, Emily and Thomas, in threadbare blankets, tucking them close, the warmth of their little bodies a small comfort against the frost that seeped through the wooden walls of their home. Each morning, she stared out at the fields, once lush and green, now a desolate blanket of white. The agony of losing her husband, who had worked tirelessly for a life filled with promise, crackled in the air like ice fracturing underfoot as the snow piled high. Food was becoming scarce. Wealthier families hoarded supplies, leaving those like Mary clawing for mere scraps. Heartache twisted in her chest, but she held on to the values that had been instilled in her: the power of family, the necessity of hard work, and the unshakable belief in neighborly kindness. Each night, as the wind howled outside, she gathered her children around the sputtering fire. "Once, our ancestors crossed treacherous seas," she whispered, her voice filling with hope even as tears glimmered in her eyes. "Their courage brought them here. You are their legacy." Yet, with each passing day, despair settled heavily upon the town, enveloping it in a mournful shroud. The old houses creaked as the frost grasped them, and Mary could feel the growing fear echoing through the thin walls of her home. But she refused to surrender. "We must band together," she declared to her neighbors, her determination igniting a flicker of unity. They gathered in the square, her voice rising above the murmurs. "Let us share what little we have. Together we can withstand the storm." The tension in the air became palpable. Old grudges ignited into flames of jealousy, and competing interests began to spill over. Just as Mary thought she found strength in her community, betrayal struck. A neighbor she trusted turned her back, spurred by fear and greed. Shocked and reeling, Mary stumbled upon a hidden cache of supplies, buried beneath layers of snow. Her heart raced as she contemplated this glimmer of hope. Does she claim it for her children as survival, or do the right thing and share with the very people who once rallied around her? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mary stood at a crossroads, her children watching her with trust-laden eyes. The townsfolk gathered, their faces hard and uncertain as voices rose in conflict. She could feel the heavy weight of their expectations pressing down on her. The storm raged outside, mirroring the turmoil in her heart. Could she mend the frayed bonds among them before the winter's cruelty tore them apart forever? The fates of her children and the town hung in the balance, the answer just out of reach as the snow continued to fall. Mary's breath caught in her throat as the weight of the decision bore down on her. The supplies lay beneath the snow, glistening like a beacon of hope in her mind. Yet, what good was hope if it meant abandoning those who had once stood beside her? She could feel the desperation creeping into her thoughts, clawing at her like the cold. "Mary," a voice cut through the swirling snow. It was Jacob, a burly neighbor who had once been a trusted friend. He peered at her through the biting wind, his expression torn between anger and pleading. "You can't keep that to yourself. We need to come together. If we don't, we'll lose everything." "I know," Mary replied, her voice trembling. "But how do we come together when trust has been pulled apart like a fraying rope? What if they come for it? What if they turn on me? Then show them you still believe in us," Jacob said, stepping closer, his breath fogging in the frigid air. "If you keep it for yourselves, fear will swallow us whole. But if we stand together, we can weather anything." With her heart pounding, Mary looked back at her children, their delicate faces glowing in the firelight, still and watching. What kind of mother would she be if she turned away from the chance to protect them? They hadn't asked for this life, weren't responsible for the winter's cruelty or the betrayal of neighbors. Just then, she felt a surge of clarity. Her decision would define their survival not just in the physical sense, but in the spirit of their community. Taking a deep breath, Mary turned to face the onlookers, her resolve igniting. "You all have families," she began, her voice steady now. "I know you ache too, just like I do, but if we fight against one another, we'll be lost. We can't let fear dictate how we care for each other. Let us share this blessing. Let it be a reminder that we are stronger together." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, unsure yet drawn to her sincerity. Jacob nodded, a sense of hope replacing the hard lines on his face. The cold wind whipped around them, but Mary felt a warmth beginning to spread within the group. One by one, faces softened, the realization dawning that love could rise from even the darkest places. With newfound determination, Mary set out not just to share the supplies but to share her story. She called them to gather, recounting tales of the settlers who came before them, who had braved storms and hardships to build a life. As she spoke, she noticed that hearts warmed, conversations began, and hands extended. Gradually, barriers crumbled under the weight of a shared struggle. However, the shift was not without resistance. Cries of doubt rang out from those unwilling to trust, voices fueled by the chill that had seeped into their souls. The spark of unity flickered in the face of old grievances. "They're hoarding," one neighbor shouted. "Why should we believe her?" "I stand with Mary," Jacob called back. "If we turn on her now, we've already lost the battle." And with that shout, Mary felt her own courage swell. This was a fight worth having. The shift had begun, but it was only the start. Just as she thought hope might take root, dark clouds rolled in, threatening to snuff it out. A figure emerged from the shadows, a familiar face twisted with resentment. Sarah, a once trusted friend, stepped forward with eyes ablaze. "You think you can sway us with words? You are nothing but a thief." Mary's heart fell. Was this how it would end? Before she could respond, the snow began to fall heavier, blanketing the gathering once more in an icy veil. The conflict was far from over, and Mary knew the real test lay ahead. She drew in a shaky breath. What would she do next? Mary's heart raced, the cold biting deeper as Sarah's accusation cut through her like a knife. She glanced around the group, their faces twisted between doubt and anger, weighing her every move. "Thief?" Mary's voice wavered, but she pressed on. "What have I stolen but the breath of winter's shadow? I stand here asking for unity, for our survival. Don't let your fear blind you to what we can become together." The wind howled around them, carrying away her words like whispers in a storm. She could feel the weight of doubt in the air as clear as the snow squalls swirling ominously around them. "Stop, everyone, please," Jacob shouted, pushing forward against the cold. "Mary held the supplies for us out of fear, yes, but she's willing to share now. Let us not lose sight of what we're fighting for." Tension hung in the air, thick and palpable. Sarah's face darkened, a storm of emotions brewing in her eyes. "And what about when the next storm comes? Will you hoard the supplies again? What happens then?" Mary felt a mix of desperation and resolve rise within her. "I would never take from you. It's not too late for us, Sarah. We can rebuild trust piece by piece." A faint glimmer of understanding crossed Sarah's face, but the anger still lingered. "Easy for you to say, but you don't know the burden of betrayal." Mary took a step forward, her breath visible in the frigid air. "You're right. I haven't walked your path. But haven't we all faced the same storm? We can't change the past, but we can choose how we move forward. Share your stories, your pain. Let us make this about us." For a moment, silence settled, thick like the snow falling around them. It was as if everyone held their breath, waiting for someone to break the spell. Finally, an older neighbor named Ruth stepped forward, her face lined with years and hardship, yet her eyes shone with wisdom. "You're right, Mary. We have shared struggles, and we've been lost in fear for too long. Perhaps it's time we find a different path." Encouraged, Mary turned to the others. "Together we can lay the groundwork. Start here in this moment. Let us begin with what we have, and create something more than just survival. Let us make it a community. One by one, murmurs of agreement began to ripple through the crowd. Jacob smiled, pride filling his chest as he saw shades of hope flickering like candle flames. But the lingering threat remained, evident in Sarah's frown. I won't forget. You have to earn my trust again. Then let me earn it, Mary replied, desperation lacing her voice. Let all of us earn it. We can't change what has been lost, but we can build something new from it. As the conversation evolved, faces began to show signs of acceptance. Mary's heart soared, only to drop again as she noticed a dark figure lurking just beyond the clearing, watching with unyielding eyes. She felt a chill run down her spine. Who's there? She called out, her voice trembling. The figure stepped forward, revealing a shadow she thought was long gone. Just watching Mary. The voice was deep and familiar, yet riddled with bitterness. You talk of unity, but how can you trust those who have betrayed you? The icy grip of dread tightened around Mary, and she knew this was just the beginning. The unknown figure stepped closer, testing the resolve they had barely begun to build. The fragile peace was about to be challenged in ways none of them could foresee. Mary took a firm breath. What would she do next? The future was uncertain, but she was determined to fight for it. The figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the weak light of the gathering. Mary's heart sank as she recognized him, David, her younger brother. Once, he had been the lively spirit of their family, chasing fireflies and sharing dreams under a summer sky. Now, his eyes were cold, filled with a resentment that sliced deeper than the winter wind. Why are you back, David? Mary's voice barely rose above a whisper, the memories of their childhood flickering like a dying flame. Back to remind you, Mary, he replied, his tone sharpened by years of distance. You think you can lead these people without addressing the past? You've left a trail of broken promises and trust. Unity? It's a smokescreen. Anger erupted within her, igniting a spark of defiance. I've made mistakes, yes, but I'm here, ready to make things right. Aren't we all? Her voice gained strength as she faced the growing unease in the crowd around them. David scoffed, but the murmurs from the others were softening. His eyes darted around, searching for support, but found only doubt. You think they'll forget? You think your sweet words can mend what has been shattered? Maybe you're right, Mary replied, her breath coming out in soft puffs. But can't we at least try? I senti that what family and community are about. The wind howled, swirling loose snow around their feet, mirroring the swirling emotions of those gathered. Sarah's gaze softened slightly. Mary saw her wrestling with her own fears. David, we're all scared. But the only way to move forward is to face those fears together, Mary urged. Ruth stepped up again, her voice steady. David, we've all been lost in our shame and anger. We get tangled in our own doubts, but we can choose to walk a different path together. Can't we try to believe? David paused, brow furrowed, his resolve shaking against the overwhelming tide of hope weaving through the group. And what if it breaks again? What if you push me away once more? Then we fight to mend it, Mary answered, tears welling in her eyes. I won't keep you on the outside anymore. I need you, David. We all do. Just take that first step back to us. Mary reached out, her hand extended. The gesture felt fragile and raw, but the yearning for connection pulsed through her. Time stood still as David stared down at her offered hand, his face an expression of conflict. Around them, others began to step closer, taking encouragement from her vulnerability. Jacob nodded, his brow set in determination. Mary's right. We're stronger as a community, but we need to confront our pasts to move forward. As the tension shifted, and Mary's heart raced with hope, David's expression softened. He looked at the outstretched hand, then back at the faces filled with uncertainty yet brimming with expectation. Okay, let us say I want to try, he said, finally raising his own hand. Mary fought to contain her relief and excitement, but a voice from the back of the crowd rang out, piercing the fragile moment. Don't be fooled. They'll betray you again. The voice was seething, a stark contrast to the hope enveloping them. Mary's heart thudded in her chest. They were getting closer to a breakthrough, yet the shadows of doubt lingered, eager to suffocate their emerging unity. She turned, scanning the crowd for the source of the accusation, dread creeping back in. Would they stand together, or would they crumble under the weight of fear once more? Determined to face this new challenge, Mary held her brother's gaze. Each second felt as heavy as the snowflakes dropping from the sky. What were they willing to risk? What trust could still be salvaged? Let us prove them wrong, she whispered, but the echo of that voice haunted her promise. The crowd's murmur grew louder, tension thickening the air. Mary turned back to David, her heart racing. Don't listen to them, she urged, her voice firm. This is about us, about the chance to rebuild. David hesitated, uncertainty playing across his features. For a dark moment, Mary feared he would withdraw into the shadows. She took a step closer, breaking the distance that had stretched between them for so long. You came back for a reason. I know you. You still care. Sarah joined her, stepping beside Mary. We're all afraid, David. But the only way to heal is by embracing the pain together. You have a place here. At those words, an emotion flickered in David's eyes. Behind the anger, she saw a hint of the boy who used to play by her side. For a moment, the cold facade began to crack. But what if I'm not ready? David replied, his voice barely above a whisper, as if saying it aloud made the truth more real. What if they're right? Ruth moved forward, her presence strong and solid. We'll be right here, David. No one's perfect. We all stumbled, but that doesn't mean we have to remain fallen. As Ruth spoke, a flurry of memories echoed in the space between them: happiness, laughter, shared secrets beneath the stars. David's face softened, the lines of resentment momentarily melting. Mary took another deep breath, emotions bubbling to the surface. You don't have to be alone, David. We all face our demons. This is a chance to change our story, to craft something new. We need you. I need you. Behind her, heads nodded in agreement. The crowd's energy shifted, an undercurrent of unity rising. Even those who had doubted were beginning to see the light of possibility. David began, his voice cracking. But before he could continue, the angry voice rang out again, sharper and more venomous than before. You're all fools. She'll betray you and lead you straight into darkness. Mary felt the burn of that accusation deep in her chest. Anger surged through her. But it wasn't just anger. It was resolve. David's eyes darted around, searching, as if he could find what he had lost among the faces before him. Enough! Mary shouted, stepping forward. We've all felt hurt, abandoned, lost. But we're here now, willing to take that leap. Are you? With her final words, a silence fell. The snow continued to fall softly around them, each flake a fragile promise hanging in the air. The uncertainty felt palpable, but so did the flickering hope. David's gaze returned to her, searching for something deeper. What if I can't change? What if I'm still the same? You can start by being here, Mary said, tears welling in her eyes. You don't have to carry the weight alone anymore. Let us walk this path together. Together, he echoed, as if the word was foreign yet welcoming. Slowly, almost hesitantly, David took a step forward. He held out his hand, trembling with the fear of vulnerability but strong with the promise of reconciliation. Mary clasped it, their hands fitting together, bridging the heartache of their past. A ripple of energy coursed through the crowd, fueled by their shared moment. But as they stood united, the bitter voice pierced the silence once more. You'll be the first to fall. Just wait and see. The crowd shifted uneasily, the shadow of doubt creeping back in. Mary's heart sank again, but she held firmly onto David's hand, feeling his warmth. Don't let fear rule us, she whispered, fake confidence mixing with a shiver of dread. Could their fragile unity withstand the storm brewing on the horizon? As she looked into David's eyes, determination hardened her heart. They had taken a step towards healing, but would their past truly allow them the space to grow? A wave of unease washed over her, twisting her stomach. Are we truly ready to face what comes next? She thought, clinging to the hope that had just been born. The glow of determination flickered like a candle in the dark, but Mary could feel how easily it could be snuffed out. She looked around the crowd, their faces a mix of fear and longing. They were waiting, hoping for David to take that leap, just as she had. Please, she beckoned softly, squeezing his hand. We need to know you're with us. David swallowed hard, uncertainty continuing to dance in his eyes. What if I mess everything up? His voice trembled, revealing the cracks in his armor. You won't, Ruth interjected, her voice steady as she approached. Look, we all stumbled. Remember when we tried to fix that old church roof? Talk about a mess. But we learned together. Each mistake brought us closer, brought us strength. A murmur rippled through the crowd at her words. Mary saw several faces soften, the fear beginning to loosen its grip. David seemed to weigh her words. He gazed at Ruth, then back to Mary, his expression still conflicted. What happens if I don't belong here? It's not about belonging. It's about being brave enough to find out, Sarah replied, stepping forward as well. And you won't find out alone. We'll be right here, through every doubt and every fear. Mary took a deep breath, urging her heart to calm. If David could step forward now, so could she. Think of everything we've built together. The joy, the sacrifices. We've faced storms before, David. Maybe this could be the beginning of something bigger. A chance for us to rise. Can we rise? Someone from the back asked, their voice tinged with skepticism. Mary turned to the person. Absolutely. It won't be easy. But we've already proven ourselves strong enough to try. Determination flowed through her voice, carrying the entire crowd with it. David's grip tightened around Mary's hand. The tension pulsed between them, a silent promise blooming in the space they shared. As he stood there, wrestling with his fears, she could almost see the battle within him, a fight against leftovers from the past, against the whispers that still clawed at his mind. The scary, he admitted almost inaudibly. Sometimes it is, Mary replied, fastened to that fragile thread of connection they'd just begun to weave. But look at us, we're here together, that essay step worth taking. It's worth being afraid for. David inhaled sharply and stood taller. The warmth of acceptance slowly melted the ice around him. This choice, this moment, felt like standing on the edge of a great chasm, the unknown stretching endlessly beneath them. But sometimes, the most beautiful journeys began with a single, terrifying step. Okay, he finally spoke, his voice stronger now. I want to try. I want to be here. Cheers erupted from the crowd, relief spilling into joyous laughter and claps. Mary held her breath. It felt surreal, watching David find the courage he thought was lost. Yet, the angry voice pierced the celebration. You're all deluding yourselves. It will end in tragedy. You know that, right? The tone struck a chord of unease. But this time, the crowd merely turned in the direction of the voice. Their unity solidified. Mary's heart raced. We have to stand firm, she urged, lifting her chin, her confidence spilling into the space around them. Together, we are stronger than any shadow. With a huddle forming around them, people linked arms, forming a barrier against the negativity. Mary felt the warmth expand, a feeling of belonging rising stronger than the chill in the air. But as she looked into David's eyes, doubt crept back in. What if the threat is real? What if we can't withstand it? The question hung heavy, the joy now mingled with fear. Was their new beginning fragile yet glowing truly strong enough for the storms to come? As the snows fell around them and shadows danced just beyond the light, it all felt like a beacon, a first push toward possibility. Mary couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental lay ahead, testing their resolve. What would be unveiled in the coming trials? Did they possess the strength to withstand the darkness that loomed? The laughter and cheers mingled with an uneasy silence as the angry voice echoed in the air. Mary's heart raced, her eyes darting through the sea of faces around her. David's face, once filled with determination, now showed a flicker of doubt. Mary, he whispered, what if they're right? What if we fail? Before she could reply, Ruth stepped forward, fiercely. No one knows what tomorrow holds. But we can't let fear dictate our actions. Every step we take, it's ours. You've taken the leap, David. The only failure is not trying. The crowd stirred, their confidence shaking but not cracking. Each face mirrored David's struggle, yet they stood firm, like trees swaying but not breaking in a storm. Mary felt the ground shift beneath her. Unity crackled in the air, tangible and alive. Listen, Sarah called out, her voice a rallying cry. This isn't just about us. It's about everyone who's come together to dream again. We owe it to ourselves not just to survive but to truly live. Live. The word reverberated among them, sparking flickers of light in their eyes. A ripple of energy dove back into the crowd, igniting courage like embers catching fire. But still, a shadow hovered. The winter wind howled, brushing against their faces, as if to remind them of the dangers lurking in the darkness. Mary clasped David's hand tighter. We'll face whatever comes together. One we? He paused, looking deep into her eyes. Together, he affirmed, drawing strength from her belief. A faint smile began to emerge, thoughts racing ahead to brighter horizons. Then came a voice, shaky yet clear. If we do this, what about those who don't believe? How do we stand against their doubts? The question hung like a cloud, darkening the mood. But Mary took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Perhaps their fear speaks of their own struggles, but we can show them a different way. It's not just about winning their hearts. It's about proving to ourselves that we can face the storms. Suddenly, an unexpected clap rang out from the back, followed by another. One by one, the crowd began to cheer softly at first, then louder. It was less about applause and more about reclaiming their voices. Each clap echoed their shared vulnerability and their unyielding strength against whatever lay ahead. Mary let out a breath she didn't know she was holding, smiling as everyone rallied together. The barriers built by fear began to crumble, leaving space for growth, for dreams, for hope. That joy, however, faded as a tremble of silence descended over the crowd. A looming figure stepped into the circle, the source of doubt, ready to shatter their newfound spirit. Do you really think you can hold your ground? You're just a flock without a leader. The voice sneered, echoing the earlier negativity. Mary's heart dropped, the weight of his words threatening to douse their light. But she shook her head, gathering her courage. Perhaps we're not led by a single person. She spoke, her voice steady. We're led by our collective hearts, and together, we have the power to ignite a lasting change. David squeezed her hand. A sense of realizable strength shimmered, building amongst them, each person feeling less like an individual and more like a crucial part of a whole. Yet, beneath that spark of unity thrummed the fear of what was to come. Would they be able to stand against the growing storms? What challenges would emerge now that they chose to step forward together? As silence filled the air, Mary felt an unshakable weight of uncertainty, but also the undeniable warmth of hope. The storms were real, but so was the possibility they had created. The night stretched on, calling forth whatever fate awaited them. Would they rise against the shadows or let them swallow them whole? Tomorrow's fight loomed large. What would the darkness reveal when they stepped into its depths? The night crept on, thick with anticipation and doubt. Mary stood among the crowd, feeling the pulse of unity thrumming around her. Each heartbeat echoed the courage that they were beginning to muster, but the shadow of uncertainty still loomed large. Let us take one step at a time, she urged, her voice ringing through the night. We're not alone in this. Let us move forward, together. With those words, she started walking, leading them into the unknown. The crowd followed, hesitant but resolute, their collective sigh mingling with the chill of the evening air. David stayed close by her side, their hands still intertwined, borrowed strength woven between them as they began to walk. The overwhelming silence started to give way to quiet murmurs. People shared stories of their own fears, their hopes, their dreams, each narrative adding a layer, binding them to one another. Remember when we thought this winter would be unbearable? A voice piped up, Yet here we are, still standing, still dreaming. That remark sparked a ripple of chuckles. Then a wave of shared laughter washed over them. Felt good. Felt freeing. The winds of anxiety softened, and the chill of the night seemed less biting, more invigorating, as hearts started to beat in tandem. Remember that time we nearly gave up? Another person chimed, and the night was filled with stories of struggle and triumph. They spoke of losses, of trying to survive the brutal winters, and of the warmth they found in each other. Each tale reminded them that the length of the journey mattered less than the company they kept. Yet amongst the laughter, Mary felt a dizzying weight, a tugging for what was still to come. What if we fail tomorrow? The question gnawed at her. In her mind, she knew the odds were stacked against them. The looming figure of doubt still flickered in her thoughts, its sneer haunting her. What if we fly? David's whisper broke through her reverie, and she turned her gaze to him. Fully present, his eyes were alive with conviction. What if we become bigger than we ever imagined? All we need is to take that one step into the dark and let our wings stretch. His words settled into her like a comforting blanket. Encouragement bloomed within her chest, and Mary smiled, feeling their words hang bright against the bleak horizon. They were flying into an uncertain future, but it was theirs, grounded in the choice to unite against the challenges ahead. Just as the first glimpse of dawn began to pierce through the night, they reached the edge of the woods. The dark trees stood like sentinels, and the subtle shift in the atmosphere sent a shiver of both fear and excitement down her spine. "Are we ready?" someone asked, their voice trembling. The question hung in the air, pregnant with possibility and doubt. Mary glanced back at the faces illuminated by the dim light of the fading stars. There was determination and fear, yet through it all, there was hope. "We've already made it this far together," she called out. "Imagine what we can accomplish beyond this point." With resolute hearts, they crossed the threshold of trees, stepping into newfound possibilities that awaited them. The air was thick, fizzing with shared dreams and the urgency of what lay ahead. But just then, a rustle in the bushes sent a wave of panic through the group. Mary felt her heart stop. What was that? Someone whispered, eyes wide in fear and the suspenseful hush. Uncertainty coiled around them like a serpent. She felt the world around her shift, the weight of the unknown bearing down. What danger hid just beyond their sight? As the tension built, Mary realized they had walked right into the heart of the storm. Would they find their way through? Or would fear snatch their hopes from them at the moment of truth? A shadow loomed ahead, a reality that waited to be discovered. What would they face next when they dared to pierce the veil of darkness? The rustle grew louder, snapping Mary from her thoughts. The faces around her reflected a mix of fear and curiosity, as if the forest itself were holding its breath. She squeezed David's hand tighter, pulse racing. What was out there? They had stepped into the unknown, but now it felt like the unknown was stepping back. "Stay together," she urged, voice steady despite the tremor in her stomach. She could feel every eye on her, silently begging for direction, for reassurance that they wouldn't crumble under the weight of night. Then a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a boy, thin and wide-eyed, his clothes tattered yet somehow familiar. A wave of relief washed over the group, a collective breath drawn as they took in the sight of him. It's just a kid," someone shouted, laughter bubbling up, although it had a nervous edge. "What are you doing out here?" Mary asked, kneeling down to meet his gaze. The boy looked shy but unafraid, a small spark of defiance in his eyes. I'm looking for my sister," he stammered, glancing back into the darkness. "She went out to find help. I think she got lost." Compassion flooded Mary's heart, pushing aside her own fears. "We'll help you find her," she promised, her voice firm. The journey hadn't been just about them. It had always been about the community, about each other. Once again, they were reminded of the ties that bind them. The tension that had gripped the group began to dissolve, questions and whispers circulating. "We can search together," David suggested. "We're stronger in numbers." Mary nodded. As the boy looked up, a glimmer of hope lighting his expression. She silently committed to making this right, to ensuring no one wandered alone, not even a lost child in this vast forest. They fanned out in search of the sister, moving cautiously through the underbrush, hearts pounding in earnest. Each rustle of the leaves held promise and fear, yet a shared determination bolstered them against the unknown. And just then, from somewhere deep within the tangled thickets, came a faint call. "Lucas, where are you?" The boy's face lit up, hope spilling over. "That's her," he shouted, his voice breaking into a run toward the sound. Mary followed, David right behind her. As they drew closer, the surrounding trees seemed to part, guiding them toward the source of the voice. And there, at the base of an ancient oak, a girl of about his age knelt, tears streaking her face. When she spotted Lucas, an easy cry of relief escaped her lips. "Thank God!" she exclaimed, rushing into his arms, and the transformation of fear into joy swept over the gathering crowd like a warm spring breeze. Amid the laughter and tears, Mary realized that they faced their first challenge together and emerged not just as individuals, but as a united front. This wasn't just about facing the darkness of the forest, but about finding each other, lifting each other up when times got tough. "I can't believe you found me," the sister said, wiping her tears, looking at Mary with gratitude. "We're all here for each other," Mary replied, her heart swelling with a newfound conviction. This moment wasn't simply a win. It was a reminder of the strength they could find in togetherness. As they began to turn back, something flickered through the trees, an unrecognizable shape darted just out of sight. Mary exchanged a glance with David, a spark igniting in her chest. What else awaits us out there? She wondered, her spirit calling out for the next adventure. With a deeper breath, they stepped further into the unknown, whatever lay ahead waiting to be uncovered. As the group made their way back from the woods, a collective sense of relief washed over them. They had faced fear head-on and returned, not just with the lost siblings, but with a renewed spirit that bound them together. The laughter from the children filled the air, swirling through the cold like a warm embrace, mixing joy with the scent of fresh pine and snow. Mary held tightly to David's hand, her heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. They had taken a crucial step into the unknown, and the bond they created today would have to hold as winter continued its relentless grasp. "We did it," she whispered, casting a glance back at the children, glowing with laughter, igniting a flicker of hope in every adult's heart. But as they reached the village, the mood shifted slightly. Mary caught sight of the murmurs rippling through the townsfolk, the same old fears and doubts surfacing again like glacial ice. Out of the crowd, she spotted Sarah's familiar face, still shadowed in skepticism. "What now?" an uneasy neighbor called out, breaking through the happy chatter. "What if this was a fluke? Our troubles aren't over yet." Mary took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their resolve flailing slightly as doubt seeped back into their minds. "We'll face what's next together," she declared, stepping forward and catching every eye in the assembly. "Today we proved what happens when we lean on one another. Fear disappears when we let love and trust lead the way." But the underlying tension remained thick, and in the back of her mind, she felt the invisible hand of doubt gripping the crowd tightly. David squeezed her hand, a reminder of their shared determination. "Let us remind them," he said softly, yet resolutely, urging Mary on. "Remember the stories we shared earlier?" Mary continued, her resolve hardening. "Every one of us carries a tale of survival. We can turn our suffering into strength, and together we can rise higher than ever before." A few murmurs exchanged between the group, skepticism slowly transforming into curiosity. Jacob stepped forth, his presence commanding. "What happened today shows us that despite our broken past, healing begins when we open our hearts. If we can save 2 lost children, we can save this town." As their collective memories danced in the air, Mary saw flickers of understanding igniting amidst the crowd. They had reframed their narrative. The whispers of the past began to shift. They needed to champion mercy over resentment, togetherness over isolation. Yet, just then, Sarah stepped forward, casting down her unwavering stare. "And if we fail again?" The question hung heavy, as if a spell had been cast over them. If we fail, Mary replied, heart racing, we will gather our pieces and rise again. We'll gather our stories, our voices. Fear is strong, but so is our desire for a community built on trust. And at that, the crowd fell silent, absorbing her words. The shadows of doubt still lingered, but together they gathered strength like a chorus, rising against the chill. A cheery shout emerged from Lucas, the boy they had rescued. Let us have a feast. We can share stories and laugh together. Mary's heart swelled again with that warmth, the promise of community weaving itself around them. Yes, she echoed. A feast brings us to the table, uniting us. With new energy, they began to share plans, voices merging into an harmonious chorus, a declaration of solidarity. The days ahead would not be without struggle. Winter's hold was far from over. Yet, as they gathered around the communal table, the flame of hope flickered brightly. Each story, laughter, and shared plate reminded them that joy could always be found amidst struggle. They were not just surviving but building a foundation together, hand in hand as the night deepened. Mary looked at David, gratitude in his eyes reflecting upon hers. This journey had truly begun, shifting from fear to a vibrant tapestry of dreams and possibility. She felt a new light in her heart, one that propelled her to keep faith during the long winter nights. Suddenly, amidst the clamor and joy, a deep sense of calm washed over the town. They had stepped into the unknown without falling apart, finding strength in unity. Tomorrow would bring yet another challenge, but within the robust embrace of newfound community, Mary knew they would face it together, no matter the storm that lay ahead. And in that moment, she realized, the journey was not just about overcoming the winter's harsh grasp. It was about cultivating an enduring bond, one that would flourish, just like the first blossoms of spring after a long, dreary season. This was their time to rise, and it was a chance worth seizing. Now, let us not forget that for more inspiring stories and emotional journeys like this, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately. Don't wait not even one more second. Leave a like now to help us stick to the algorithm and reach more hearts. I want to hear from you, so comment below your reactions and feelings about this uplifting ending. And remember, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this transformation. This is the moment to show your love and support.